So in this video, I'm going to briefly explain what an alkene is. And so alkenes have one double bond, which is equivalent to one pi bond and a sigma bond. And then an alkene, the double bond is formed by the overlap of two sp2 hybridized atoms. And so to the bottom left, you can see essentially what an alkene looks like in 3D. And then to the right here, is essentially what we draw it as. And so in 3D, this molecule is actually flat. So it has a fully planar system with all of the 6 atoms in one plane. Additionally, due to the extra pi bond, double bonds have more energy. And so what that means is the bond is stronger. And so one more thing to remember is that a double bond consists of a pi bond and a sigma bond. And it's important to remember that a pi bond is a lot easier to break than a sigma bond. Essentially, you just have to look at the energy that it releases. So a sigma bond releases 85 kilocalories per mole, while a pi bond releases only 60 kilocalories per mole. And so essentially, the less energy that something releases, the easier it will break. And so therefore, pi bonds are easier to break than sigma bonds. However, one thing to remember is that pi bonds, unlike sigma bonds, pi bonds cannot rotate. And so essentially when you have an alkene, you kind of have a pretty rigid structure. And so the different isomers that you may have would not interconvert under normal conditions, and so one last thing to mention is that stereoisomers of alkenes exist. And so the two molecules that I've drawn are actually called diastereomers. And so these diastereomers, or geometric isomers, are not the same thing as conformational isomers. And remember that conformational isomers are essentially just the same molecule, essentially just rotated about the sigma bond. But here, you can't rotate this molecule because the pi bond holds everything in place, and so it's rigid like that. So these two molecules are considered stereoisomers. And so the one on the left you would call cis, and the one on the right you would call trans. And so that pretty much sums it up for an overview of alkenes. I hope this video helped you. If it did, please give it a like and share it with your friends.